Don't worry, if you raise your hand, we'll put you on the Finance Committee. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Finance Committee, February 10th, 2025. Welcome, everybody. Excuse me. Commissioner Alford will lead us in the pledge, and Commissioner Collins will say the blessing. If you would, please stand.
Let's bless first. All right, Lord Jesus, we're thankful for today, and we're thankful for the gathering, the opportunity to gather. We pray your blessings upon us and your favor. Help us to be wise in our decisions and thoughts. Help us to glorify you in all the things. In Christ's name.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you very much. I know we just did that, but you can't be too patriotic. We're going to the agenda item here, report from the mayor. Mayor Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Credit card report, fire department, no charges. Assessor used 6 times, but all good. Sheriff used 5 times, all good. The mayor used 1 time, all good. EMA 4 times, all good. And juvenile department 3 times, all good. The only other thing I have other than what's on the agenda is I did pass out a bill for you to consider. You recall a couple of years ago or whatever, you put AED things in the courthouse in the annex, and these have to have batteries replaced every couple of years. So the battery packs, what you have in front of you is a bill to take care of these 2 locations. That's a $2,000 or $2,001 bill. It's not budgeted anywhere, so I'm asking for you to consider paying it out of your $599.
Do I have a motion to pay the bill out of the County Commission's $599? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Collins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. That was the best solution I had for it, so I appreciate you doing that. Thanks a lot.
Those are the only ones?
There's 2. There's one over there and one over here.
Right.
And this takes care of both of them.
Right. And that's done. Going to that's all you have, Mayor? Any questions for the mayor? I'm sorry, Commissioner Alford, Mayor.
How long does those normally last, Mayor?
Troy's the one that takes care of it. He told me, he said, I don't know, but I think 2 years is what they did, so probably a 2-year life, something like that.
That's a good question. I mean, how many do we have in all of our county buildings that we?
That's the only 2 we've done. I don't know about schools and places like that. I know I've seen.
Schools can do theirs.
It's sort of like some of those other things. Sometimes we put things like that in and don't think about the ongoing, and there is usually, in this case, the battery packs. But
any about EMS stations, fire halls, or anything like that?
I've seen some amendments recently, maybe in this pack, that have to do with putting more of the AEDs in, and I'm thinking, I hope they're thinking ahead of what's coming. But whenever these were put in, there wasn't any thought given to it. I don't remember how they came about now.
So given the answer to his question, in the 2 budgets from now, you'll have to budget for this again.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do that. Send the bill over to $599. All right, going to our agenda, budget amendments. First budget amendment that we have here. Scroll through here. The mayor's going to make fun of me. There we go. All right, finance. He is decreasing expenses and increasing expenses for legal fees, $5,000, coming also out of, excuse me, $599. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And as always, if you have any questions about this lawsuit, please get with Crystal. Going on to the next budget amendment, we have a decrease in the fund balance of $12,000, a total of $12,000. No, sorry, it would be $18,000. $18,495, and it's split up between 2 different items there, $12,947 and $5,548. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a, sorry, I was looking this way and I called him Commissioner Slater. Man.
Good little no look.
Yeah. Commissioner Collins, and then a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion?
Let me explain before you vote. That's okay. Is that what you're after, Cindy? This is a state grant that we got to buy a couple of roll-offs. The roll-offs will cost the amount you see down there where we're increasing the expense line, $18,495. And we will get 12,947 of that reimbursed after they're bought and inspected and everything, which at the end of the day is taking 5,548 from your fund balance of the solid waste fund. So it's a grant. It's a good thing. It's about a 70-30 grant, something like that.
It is a good thing. I thought we were talking about even putting that in the budget request, so this offsets what we were gonna do. This is for Irving Road? Or
Yes.
am I-
We may end up putting one at each place, but it's two. Yeah. We could get two to qualify, and I've applied for these before. We don't usually get them, but we got this one.
That's good. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're not 100%, but it's still a good deal.
And one of the containers has a hole in it, I believe.
Yeah, at Urbane, unless they've replaced one of them themselves, but yeah, the bottom rusted out of one of them.
All right, so these two, obviously this is a good thing, and we don't have to budget for it in the next budget.
No, this will take care of it. By doing this amendment, you're taking a little bit out of the fund balance to pay the difference.
Got it.
We'll have to pay the full amount. That's why you're
That's fine.
putting that full amount, but we'll get reimbursed.
Commissioner Alford.
Just a question, Mayor, are we still accepting stuff at the Peerless Road Cycling Center?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Electronics? stuff,
electronics. No.
Just stuff.
We accept plastic, cardboard, paper, glass. I think that's all, but no electronics.
This is a good thing. We get those in there whenever we get them. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment, he's decreasing the fund balance out of 128, which is art money, right? Yeah, sorry. And it's going into 790 other equipment.
If I could explain this one.
Let me get a motion in a second, man. I'll be right
Okay.
back. We have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Mayor?
I don't like to use small amounts like this with ARP, but what this is, we replaced the boiler at the cannery. We
Mhm.
used ARP money. It was, I don't know, $25,000 roughly. And we paid for it. That was no problem. But then when they come to inspect it, they said we had to put some kind of a special switch in with new boiler installations. Well, we had already paid for the boiler with the ARP money, so this additional cost is the $800. Actually, $780 or $90 is the estimate, but I rounded it to 8. So I'm taking out of ARP so that the boiler and this both is in. This is to complete a project you've already approved.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. Oh, I already got it. I'm sorry. Man, you guys are going to have to. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Trustee's office. He is increasing expenses and office supplies and decreasing out of tuition $1,165. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment, still staying with the trustee's office, increasing expenses of $3,300 out of $435 office supplies, and decreasing out of $399 other contract services of the same amount. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Bradley County Parks, he is increasing his revenue because we have a donation of $1,600, and he is putting it in $499. This is a donation from Simmons Bank. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next one. There you see the itemization there. And the check. And we get into General Sessions Judge. Isn't there two of these? We went over these the other day, right? Hold on a second. Yeah, there's two of them. There's one for $70 and there's one for $75. We can take both those together. There's three of them. I'm sorry. He's just moving within his account. so we can do all three of those together. Understand? All right. Do I have a motion to accept these three amendments from Judge Collins? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That takes us down to juvenile. And she is decreasing expenses by a whole whopping $5, increasing pest control. Got to get it. I have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on, staying with juvenile. She is increasing revenue, $269.27, increasing expenses, so it's money coming in of the same amount. And there she itemizes where the money's going to land. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Alford? I have a second from Commissioner Collins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next one. There you see the itemization of the sort of supporting documentation in the check. Getting into the health department. She is increasing her expenses and she's increasing her revenue by $145,000, and she's putting it in revenue account 463. She wrote it in. We frowned on that. And it's to combine with art funding. Mayor, I'll get a motion in a second, then I'll come to you. I have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. I saw in the banner that they moved out. Where are we at on that whole project? It's a massive project. I mean,
The commissioner here. Getting close.
end of this month, and they're back in there and operational and all that. That's good. All right. So
Major ordeal.
we appropriated a lot of ARP money for this, so it's good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Alford.
Where are they right now, Mayor?
Thereby. Part of it, actually, some of it is over here. They've advertised and all those. Plus,
Health Department.
she is on. Yeah, on maternity leave. Thank you. I got the wrong lady. Yeah, she's on maternity leave. Anyway, should be back. They should be moved back in.
Are we leasing that property to them? Are they leasing it, or how they work
Here,
over there?
Here ago. No, there is a line in their budget. Pay for. Most all of this.
Thank you.
All right, 145,000 coming in. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Sticking with the health department there, $320, increase in expenses, increase in revenue. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Collins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And sticking with the health department, increase in expenses, increase in revenue, money coming in, public safety grant. This is the car seat. This is an annual one anyway. $1,724.10. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to, and there you have your supporting documentation, a letter, and we get to a check, and then we get to veterans. He is decreasing the fund balance, and he is increasing expenses, and he's putting it in 207, $4,513. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? I did talk to him the other day, just to give you a real quick. The gentleman that he hired is a veteran. I think everybody's in a veteran, but his benefits didn't line up quite with the budget calendar. He is now on veteran benefits, so this is to pay for the 6 months that the veteran benefits didn't from July 1 to the end of 24. So we're basically paying that premium for him, but now he's back on that. So that's what happened here. So no harm, no
Yeah,
foul.
when he was hired, they didn't budget insurance because he wasn't going to need it.
He wasn't
and
going to need it, and
he did.
it's just a timing thing working with the feds. What are you going to do? So anyway, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. It's one time where you just had to go into the fund balance. I mean, Bradley County EMS, he's decreasing expenses and he is increasing expenses, and he's staying in his account of $600. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on. Now we're in fire and rescue, increase in revenue, increase in expenses. So it's money coming in of $2,000. This is a donation from, we saw this the other day, Vocker. Yep. We have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There you see the supporting documentation and the check. Now we get into Bradley County Sheriff's Office. Increase in revenue, increase in expenses. Also, money coming in of $8,500, and she is putting that in other contracted services. And you see her explanation down there. An interlocal agreement between Charleston PD. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Collins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there you see the check from our friends over at Charleston. Next amendment, decrease in expenses out of a line, jail. 106 is a salary line, and she is moving it to maintenance and repair of $19,500. Oh, for the grinder. We have replaced that grinder at least.
Been a couple of years.
I think we just worked on it, but either way, it's a major deal. A lot of things have to go through there. That's why it's required.
Yeah, well, if you don't repair it, you'll pay the price. But it seems like we just did it. It seems like it. Time flies. All right. Do we have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. I found it interesting how she pulls it from 106 though.
Well, that's where she could if you approved it.
Yeah. I mean, moving on to the next budget amendment. Bradley County Sheriff's Office. Increase in revenue, increase in expenses of $16,000, and this is for SRO supplemental pay. And we get a motion in a second, then I'll have a question for you. I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Collins. Caleb, so she's moving $16,000 into 196, which is a regular wage line. But obviously there's other withholdings, Social Security, FICA, and all those others. I'm assuming because she would put this in here, but like she does for services rendered, she itemizes everything. So do you know if she's got enough money or?
I'm not sure. I can check with her.
I mean, I assume it, but I don't want to make too many assumptions. I mean,
I can check with her.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on. And there's the check from the state. And then we get into, are we in the services render now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll take the rest of these as a package deal. There was a note that I was going to make on one of them when we looked through these the other day. Yeah, if you'll go to page 41 as it's written on the document. On this one, she put $695.63 in her travel line. So when we get into budget, just keep a note of that. All right, we'll take the rest of these as a package. Does that matter?
Travel line.
If you look at, page 56, it's reimbursement received for the transportation of emergency committal cases. Is that services rendered like the rest of them?
Up $48? Yes. From that $48.80?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
We've always taken that. All right. Is there anything after these services rendered? Your services rendered is supposed to always be the last package. Okay. All right, so we'll take those as a package deal. Do I have a motion to accept the amendments as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no, and it passes 5-0. Thank you guys very much. That concludes the amendments for this, and we'll go to back to our agenda. Agenda item A, Goodwin Road Water Project. See page 2 and 4, and then I'm going to ask Lori to give us a high-level explanation of what has occurred. Lori, if you would, please.
Mr. Chairman, as you will recall, the Commission allocated American Rescue Plan Act funds for several water line extension projects, and specifically the Commission passed Resolution 2023-54 appropriating $60,625 of ARP funds for the Goodwin Road water line project. However, the final cost came in slightly over budget, leaving the county with an outstanding balance of $64,562. We have an invoice from Cleveland Utilities, which you'll find on page 2 of your agenda packet, in the amount of $64,562, which is $3,937 more than we originally budgeted. As is customary, Cleveland Utilities assesses these water projects beforehand and provides an estimate. And typically they come in at budget, or even a lot of the times slightly under budget. But this one, as you can see, came in, it exceeded our initial budget slightly. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the committee's guidance on how to proceed with funding the remaining $3,937.
So the project basically went over budget tad. She just gave you the number. The project is completed, correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so, but in the water project, the money that we set aside for water projects out of HCI, oh, this is ARP, I'm sorry. Right, so, but ARP bucket is also completely used. So we have two choices. One, ask Cleveland Utilities to reconsider and they pay for it, but obviously they don't want to because they sent us the bill. Or we have to find another bucket inside of HCI. I'm sorry, I keep saying HCI because it's going to come out. And ARP, or I guess we could use HCI. But anyway, so what do you guys, how are we going to pay the bill, or do we think Cleveland Utilities should pay the bill? The floor is open. Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Collins, Mayor, what are your thoughts?
It would be simpler if you paid the difference out of HCI. Of course, Lori's already heard this probably, but the aggravating thing about this is ARP money has contracts. They have a contract. Before we give ARP money out, you get a contract you sign with the amount on it. So I'm venting with Cleveland Utilities. If you're watching, you don't abide by your damn contracts, obviously. As far as paying for it, I would prefer you do it out of HCI and don't mess it up with ARP if that's possible. I don't know what you've got there, but that'd be great.
I agree. I agree. Did you have something over here?
So can we either ask Cleveland Utilities to pay for it based off the contract that they signed for the services they were going to render? And if they don't want to do that, then maybe we split it with them.
Okay. Lori, you have something?
I do. Allow me to just note that our HCI budget, we started the year with about $34,778, and there's been 3 projects thus far that's taken advantage of that fund. 330 Rakeshaw Road, White Oak Valley Road, and Hewitt Street. So we have a balance currently of $2,940.75, which is not quite enough to cover this over.
So my position on this is, and I deal with projects all the time. I mean, that's what is when they go over, usually it's already, like you said, it's already written in like who absorbs it, why, was something over labor issues or like in my world, technical issues or whatnot. We don't have any control over the project. As far as labor or the timelines or anything like that. We're just funding. We're saying, here's our portion of it. I think it's reasonable to say that those who are in charge of the project manager, and I don't know how Cleveland Utilities does their project, if they assign a project manager and then they're responsible for the milestones and all that kind of stuff, you know. But, you know, they're basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, they're basically saying, you know, in all these agreements, we have already told you what we're going to spend and that's it. Then they should have made sure, and we did too. So the project should have, in theory, should have never gone over if everybody has a line in the sand, so to speak. So I'm in favor of Commissioner Slater's idea, and asking Cleveland Utilities, and if you want to make that a motion, that'd be great.
I mean, let me ask one more question. Lori,
Sure.
did they submit a change notice saying that there was going to be a change?
No, they did not.
So I make the recommendation that we take it back to Cleveland Utilities and ask them to abide by the contract that they agreed to provide the services for.
Make that in the form of a motion.
I do.
Commissioner Slater's motion. You have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Lori, do you have the language that you do? All right. That's how we'll proceed, and we'll wait for a reply back from Cleveland Utilities, and go from there. Thank you for bringing that to us, Lori. All right, going back to our agenda. Next on there, we scroll down. We have HCI Committee recommendations, and do we have that? We do. Yes, I'm sorry.
Page 5 of your
You
agenda.
got to keep scrolling. The mayor's going to kill me for not.
I'm already there, Mylon. Where you at?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Man, my fan club is just. All right, so I'm gonna go through these real quick, and then we'll open up for discussion and all that. So, Boys and Girls Club, 40,000. Bradley Central High Bears Den Cycling, $26,083. Bradley Schools AEDS, 28,500. City Fields Community Garden, 50,000. Community Foundation Veteran Organization AEDs, $2,350. I'm gonna stop there for a second. Now, did we just learn about the AEDs and their batteries?
That's where I had seen that.
We need to let the our veterans over there at the know that in 2 years they're going to have some batteries, and when we write that letter to them. EMS Lucas Devices 118,642. Family Promise 59,147. Greenway 69,000 even. Caris 43,249. New Hope Pregnancy Center 11,500. Prospect School Track Resurface required 50% matching. We'll talk about that in a second, but according to this document, it's 30,000. The Carrying Place 55,000. Tri-State Therapeutic Riding and a tractor they need 40,750 for a total of 574. That leaves a little bit left over that the committee feels the applications didn't qualify, or
Did you say City Field?
I did.
You did.
City Fields Community Gardens 50,000. right? So that is what we need to debate, or not debate, but work over. The interesting question I'll start off with, and open floor as you have a question. Lori, you were at the meetings. Prospect School Track resurface required 50% matching. None of the, what was the thinking of the committee of why they put a stipulation in there of 50% matching? Did they state?
The prospect requested 60,000, which is 100% of the total cost, and they just felt like resurfacing a track should really be the responsibility of Bradley County. And so they said, we'll do 30,000 if they can. 1,000.
But there's no, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no policy about requiring matching.
There's not.
All right. All right. Any other others that you questions? Or I'm sorry, Commissioner Offer, please.
Ms. Moultrie, if they don't come up with a 30,000, or the school board doesn't come up with their share of it, that 30,000 going to be back in HCI money?
Yes, they will have a year. They'll get a contract, a signed contract, just like everyone else that's funded with HCI, and they'll have approximately 12, 13 months following the signature of the contract to complete the project. If it's not completed at that time, they always have the option of appealing and requesting for an extension, and that's usually handled, well, it is handled by the HCI committee on whether or not they'll grant that. But ultimately, if they are unable to come up with the matching funds, then it would revert back to HCI.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other discussion? So, Commissioner Offer.
On some of these, or a lot of these, do we have any written verification or written reasons for it? I see the figures, but do we, as a finance committee, get a copy of why they wanted this stuff or anything? Did we get that, or
No,
did I miss out on it somewhere?
You did not miss out on anything. The HCI committee was set up as a group to recommend to you all. So they do all of the legwork and they make a recommendation. So no, you didn't get. It was about 5,000 pages.
Yeah,
So
well,
you
I
didn't
figured
get
it's a
any of
lot,
those.
but so we don't really know why they're asking for some of this stuff or what it's actually going to be for. I mean, I know it says, and I know HCI did their due diligence, I'm sure, on this, but I'd like to. I sure should have looked at it myself. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardin. There's also some organizations that didn't get funded. So if you want a list of those, we can get that to you as well. So one, continue on with this. If we did, decide to go with the full matching for Prospect School Track, we do have the money to do it, right? We do. I get what they're saying. I understand what this is a school. It's a good, but you got Bradley, and we've done others. So, I tend to think that we should fund this fully, since we do have, I think, 126 left, on here. But I'll leave this to the committee. What you guys think? Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Offer, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mason.
City Fields.
City Fields is
$50,000 for a community garden. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
well, we just happen to have the director
I
here.
see him sitting there, so I'm asking the question.
Dave, director, good to see you.
First of all, thank you, Chairman Blake. And to answer your question, Commissioner Alford, we have two community gardens in place, one in the Blythe Oldfield neighborhood that's been at the corner of 13th and Chippewa, southeast. It's been there for about 7 or 8 years. We also have a new community garden that is located at the corner of 6th Street and Shepherd over in the College Hill community. And our purpose for requesting these funds is twofold. For the first one, we would like to build better capacity to involve seniors and to involve disabled individuals, which we have many of in the neighborhood, in the Blythe Oldfield Garden. What this would do is allow better access to get in and out of the garden. Right now, it has a chain link fence around it, and we have raised beds there. It's a little bit difficult for senior citizens that are very interested in the garden and disabled individuals to come in and work that garden. It's a very busy garden. It starts every year in about, well, like everyone here that has a garden knows, it's continual work for the spring throughout the end of the fall. And this neighborhood garden was began by City Fields, but it really belongs to the neighborhood. And the neighborhood association there in Blythe Oldfield takes care of that and schedules events there. And we are excited about the fact that this would give us ways to make it more accessible to seniors and more accessible to disabled individuals. We would do that by redoing the fences, by building some ramps and some different types of raised beds that would allow our senior citizens that come to have an easier way to do it. Now, in the College Hill Garden, which is at the corner of 6th Street Northeast and Shepherd, we have gone to that garden. We have graded that garden. We have put a nice fence around it for safety. We've also written a grant that would allow us to build a new tool shed to keep our tools and our supplies safe over there. We've also now have water available to that garden, so we'll be able to irrigate it this fall. What we would like to do there is to increase neighborhood engagement by building a pavilion in that garden. That garden also will eventually, the control of that garden will go over to the College Hill Neighborhood Association. They have their own garden club there and have already expressed interest to us in purchasing several of the raised beds over there. So since it's, I think that the benefits of a community garden are well established, especially with us not having a neighborhood grocery store that's readily available. We are teaching families how to source their own healthy food, and we've had some good success with that. That garden at 6 and Shepherd, you can see now has raised beds, and we've had several community service projects where we've taken topsoil and put those in those raised beds. So we're excited about the growing season, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but that's why we requested these funds. Questions?
Raised beds, how many area or how big an area do you talk about? Big as this courthouse room or?
The College Hill Garden is a little bit larger than this courthouse, or than this courtroom, and it's fenced. And we've also written another grant that will tie that garden over to Shepherd Field, and we would like to have sidewalks up and down Shepherd just to make it more accessible for the residents there. There are currently 19 raised beds that are 6 by 10 beds that are filled. That's treated wood lumber that Valker Chemical came in and helped us build those. Volunteers from there, filled with topsoil, and lots of plants ready for that. Now we had plants in the ground last summer that did really well, but they were just down in the ground and did not have really good accessibility for senior citizens and other people. So having a pavilion there in that garden would make it very just a nice community gathering place now that we have a fence and everything's secure. So we're looking forward to the possibilities.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so there's the itemized list or the recommendation from the HCI Committee to the Finance and ultimately the full Commission. And as stated a moment ago, we have about 126 that has not been appropriated. If we don't use that, it'll just flow over to the next allotment come the end of the year when they start the program or the process back up the end of the year or next January. Anything else, Commissioner Alford?
Those additional devices will put one on every truck as well as every quick response vehicle that we have, including the new one that will be coming later this year.
How many times have you used those here lately? Have you got any on your back of your head there, just a number?
I'd have to pull the specific numbers. I think for 2024, it was close to 280 times in the 12 months of 2024.
Amazing. Keep them pretty close to Tasso Road, I hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Commissioner Offer, you're gonna outlive us all. Don't worry about it. But I went over on Blythe Ferry as well. And I will know, I did have a chance to chat with him the other day. All his personnel are trained on these devices. And it'll just makes common sense to have all the devices in all the trucks. I'd hate to be the one that my ambulance, when I call in, didn't have it and we needed it, you know? So, this is a good thing. All right,
One more,
please, we're on record time.
dental equipment for the cars, $43,000. Miss Lori, can you expand on that a little bit? Or do it out of your memory?
Prospect.
My goodness. I couldn't rely on my memory to recall all of the medical terms. And it's mostly for dental, but I understand that some of the equipment can be cross-used by the dental office and the medical office. But I could get that to you after the meeting, but I don't have the names of those devices at the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, all right. What's that?
He's what I was doing. I thought he was doing great. We still love him.
That's right. So I'm gonna circle back to the Prospect School track. I'm in the position or the school of thought that, you know, the 50% match. I understand what they're saying, but I want to be consistent with it. So, and we have the money to do it. So I'm as chairman usually doesn't make a motion, but I'm happy to hand the meeting over to the mayor so I can do that and go ahead and fund them fully. And then, Lori, maybe if we make I'm sure there's going to be some recommendations on some policy changes here in the spring on a few things. If the committee feels like a 50% match is the way to go, they need to communicate that with the applicant before we get to this point. If you'll remember last year, we changed the policy so that, you know, applicants found out right from the very beginning, you know, whether or not their application, you know, was applicable to the health, welfare, and quality of life. I hate to see get down to here and kind of something like this happen. So, all right. So if I need to hand the meeting over to the mayor, I will, and then I'll make the motion to fund them $60,000. All right, Mayor. So that I can do this the proper way, I'm gonna hand the meeting over to you. If that's okay.
So the motion that we're asking for would be to approve all of these recommendations and change the Prospect one to 60,000?
That's gonna be my motion, yeah. I'm gonna accept everything that the HCI committee is recommending, and just, scratch the required 50% matching as, on this resurface of this track and make it 60,000.
Okay. Just making sure I understand it. And that changes the total then to 604,221 with how much left, Lori?
About 60,000.
About 60,000.
66,000. We got time, don't worry. How did you know?
So 164 with this change. We'd have 164 left.
134-ish.
Okay, I got you.
My
Okay.
bad, I was thinking 126 ones.
All right. Okay. So is that your motion or you want to make it?
Yes, that's my motion, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any questions or comments on the motion? Everyone understand? Yes, sir.
My question and concern is this, the Prospect School track, it's a customary forever that the school board does facilities. They just spent $300-something thousand up at Walker Valley to refurbish their track, and they won't spend a penny at Bradley to do their track. So here we are going to spend $60,000 of the HCI money to do a track that I feel very strongly that the school system should be doing without us having to pay any HCI money. We can use HCI money a lot of other places when they're sitting on $8 or $9 million in their fund balance, and they're just looking at $60,000. So I will vote against it.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Yes, sir.
I like the idea of consistency in terms of not just how we allot the money, but projects as well. I think you've got a playground here, cycling, a greenway project, which is similar, and this track project. I think it's also important to remember the tracks. I think that's a deceptive word. It's not a track as we would think of like a running track or a track team, but it's more of a community track. So it's a walking track type trail. So a lot of our schools are blessed to have that, and they are typically open to the community. So it's not simply just a school track. But I do like the idea of consistency in it, and I like what Chairman Blake said, alerting our individuals that, hey, there could be a matching situation and scenario on the front end. $30,000 is a lot of money. I think, regardless of a fund balance issue, I agree with, Commissioner Alford with the fund balance. But I think for consistency, I like the idea of funding this fully. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? If not, the motion is to approve the list you have in front of you, changing Prospect from 30 to 60,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. So we'll call by roll.
4 to 1.
Okay, we'll just say 4 to 1 then. Okay, 4 to 1
right?
vote.
Mr. Alford?
He
Okay.
said no, yeah.
I thought I heard yay over here. Yeah. There you go.
All right, you got it.
All right. Thank you guys very much. And I appreciate all the work that HCI has done over the last couple of months. I think they've met at least 5 times, if I'm going by memory, and they do a lot of work. You saw the paper that they went through to get us to this point. So thank you, Lori. Thank you to the HCI Committee, Chairman McCord, and all the members over there for their hard work. And we'll get this going. Next step, Lori, is you're going to communicate or send out the letter to all these organizations and start the process on that, right?
Next step actually will be go to the county.
Oh,
full
yeah,
county
I'm sorry,
commission,
county
and then
commission has to
upon their
approve that.
approval,
So
I'll
you'll make the edit that we just approved. The county commission will, I was supposed to put that on the voting session, but, sorry. So the full commission will vote our recommendation from finance at the next voting session, and then you'll send out the letter. Very good. All right, going back to our agenda, unless there's anything else on that. And the mayor's already there. Oh, can you believe it? We are already starting the budget process. Caleb is so excited, I'm sure. Fiscal year 25-26 budget calendar. See page 6. And there's a few little things, Mayor, on here that we don't. The big thing, I think, and it's just my opinion, is that we are, according to this budget calendar, if adopted, going to. We started this last year. We're going to vote the budget resolution, and set the tax rate on the last Friday of June. I think that worked out well last year. Hopefully, 5 commissioners. I'm not going to say anything. So I'm going to look at my calendar real quick on June. So that's obviously the last Friday, June 27th, at noon, to vote in the 25-26 budget resolution and set the tax rate. Also in there, you'll see the approved final amendments if there's no. That doesn't substitute true-ups. We still have true-ups right before the finance does a final look at it. But chatting with the mayor, there may be amendments that come in after that the audit team in Nashville wants us to still take up. So we added that language to that day right there. The interesting thing, I think, on that day is June has 5 Mondays, so obviously the 30th is out, and we substitute the 23rd for the 27th. So that traditionally we don't meet then. We don't meet on the 30th. I think it's also that puts us in July. July 4th is on a Friday this year. Everyone's going to be celebrating America's independence on that Friday and over the weekend, and that brings us back on July 7th. I make a recommendation, and I'll put this in my motion when I bring it to the full commission, and I'll here as well, that we also take off the July 7th so that everyone can enjoy the July 4th holiday since it's on a Friday, anybody traveling and all that kind of stuff. I think we've all been here through a couple times. There's really not that much to do after we vote the budget in. There's not any amendments. I mean, they've only had the budget for a whole whopping 3 days at that point. Amendments will start coming in August. And we can come back into County Commission on July 14th. So that's my idea. And the other thing on the budget calendar, I added, Mayor, it doesn't affect anything that you have, but it is on the first Monday, the Finance Committee. You saw Stanley, our assessor of property. We are in a year where we're doing property reappraisals, and we have to set the certified tax rate. I just added that to the calendar to keep it all transparent. That is something we have to do this year, is a reappraisal of properties, and we have to establish this. We have to acknowledge the certified tax rate and adopt the certified tax rate. So that's not something we normally do. Like you said, we just passed or just put on the voting session to do 4-year appraisals. This is the 4th year, so that's why we saw that a few minutes ago. Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Alford, any questions, comments on there? Mayor? That doesn't affect anything that you want or that you need. All right, so there's no questions on the budget calendar. I need a motion to adopt the budget calendar.
I'll make that a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Collins. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? You want to wait for Cindy? Yeah.
Fired up. Let's do it.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4 with 1 absent. Don't kill me. And then I'll take care of the, I'll get with Chairman Cry on the days that we take off on there that I just went through with you guys. All right, if there's nothing else, going back to our agenda, let's see. I think that's everything. Right? Other business to come before the committee? What's that? Okay. And communication from audience. All right, we just doubled our attendance from last meeting, so I mean, we just had 1 last meeting. Now we're at 2. We've increased by 100%. It's good to see you, Director. All right. Hold on. And just a FYI, at the March meeting, which would be March 3rd at 11:30, we will have a guest chairman from Bradley High School. A guest chairman. One of the high school seniors is going to run the show. It would. All right. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.